I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Batavia Public School District 101 for Tuesday, March 19th. Kathy, would you call the roll, please?
Roberts. Here. Hodge.
Here.
Hinterlong. Dremel. Here. Blakely. Here. Papura.
Here.
Link.
Here. Please rise for the pledge. John, would you lead us this evening?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening. The first part of our meeting this evening is going to be a public information meeting, as we are required to do. Yes, by state law and state statute. But I want to give a little bit of background of how this meeting is going to, how the first part of this meeting is going to flow. We received the Batavia Public School District 101 received a charter school proposal on February 14th from an organization or a company called Illinois Learning Solutions. Per the Illinois School Code, the Board of Education is required to hold a public meeting to consider a charter school proposal within 45 days after the school districts received the proposal. The proposal was neither requested or solicited by the Batavia School District. Tonight's meeting complies with that request and along with the Illinois School Code. This meeting will be conducted as follows. First, legal counsel John Fester to my left. He is the board attorney. He will provide an overview of the charter school's review process. Second, a representative of the charter school will be given an opportunity to provide a presentation to the board. Third, members of the school district administration have prepared questions in which they will ask the applicant, charter schools, to respond. Fourth, members of the public will each be given up to 3 minutes to provide public testimony regarding charter school proposal. In the past, I've always been very lenient on the 3-minute rule. This evening, though, I will be holding the 3-minute rule extremely tight due to the ground we do have to cover this evening. So if you have a statement that is longer than 3 minutes, please pull out the points that you feel you can get to the board in 3 minutes, and there's no sharing of, I'm not going to go on so this person can have my 3 minutes. We will take 3 minutes per individual on their statement from the public. Fifth, the board will be given an opportunity to ask additional questions to the applicant and the school administration. After the board completes its questions, a public meeting regarding the charter school's application will be closed. There will be no final decision made tonight. The school code requires the board to finalize the decision within 30 days after tonight's meeting. The board currently intends on providing a final written decision on April 9th, 2013. I would like to emphasize that the public schools and the school board takes this application very seriously. The school district administration and attorneys have thoroughly reviewed the proposal. It is also our understanding that 17 other school districts in the area have received the same proposal. Each proposal to the individual school district constitutes a separate proposal, and each school district must conduct its own meeting and decide on its own if it will approve or deny the proposal. John Fester of the law firm Scariano Hines Petrarca is here to assist the school board. He is the school board's attorney with any procedure or legal question that will arise this evening. Okay, thank you, and I'd like to get started. First, John Fester of the law firm Scariano Hines Petrarca will provide an overview of the charter school review process. Mr. Fester.
Thank you, Ron. Just so everybody understands what we're doing tonight, Ron covered a lot of it under Illinois law, and we're talking under Article 27A of the school code if anybody wants to go read it. This is the process under which a district must respond when it receives a charter school proposal. So we have a proposal, as was noted, 17 other school districts as well, to form a virtual online charter school. And that would accept students from this district and the 17 other districts as well. So what we do tonight is the first step of the process, which is for the Board of Education to receive additional information. We already have written information from the charter school group. We have analysis from the school district administration. We'll hear some more presentation tonight from the charter school group. We'll hear some presentation from the administration, and then the public will have a chance, per President Link's remarks to weigh in and give any more input, because tonight the opportunity is for the Board of Education members to receive the information they need to deliberate on this and come back and decide in April, it looks like April 9th, to take a vote on this to affirm or deny the application. If it's approved, the district would presumably enter into negotiations with the charter school group to decide what the terms and conditions of the charter school would look like on things such as funding, oversight, and other matters. If the charter school application is denied, the charter group has indicated that if any one of the 18 school districts denies the proposal, they'll take it to what's called the State Charter School Commission. The State Charter School Commission is a newly created commission. This used to be handled by the State Board of Ed. They can take an appeal to the State Charter Commission to say, hey, we were denied at the local level. We think we met all the legal requirements and we think we're in the best interest of the students. So state overrule the local school board. So if we go down that road, we'll keep, you'll have a lot more time on that, and we'll have updates and things that are available. But that's only if the school board denies the charter application. So that's a little further down the road. So tonight what we're going to do is hear information, and with that, I think, unless anybody has any questions, we're probably ready to hear from the virtual learning solutions and K-12 people.
Okay, there's a Tamara Carpenter here from K-12 and an Eric Cohn. Good evening. Please, you can come up to this table here, and again, just for an item of clarity, they are not bound by the 3-minute rule. They are in the public hearing. I don't even say they have 3 minutes, so they are not bound by the 3-minute rule.
Really fast.
Yes.
Right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And can I just, there are chairs up in the front as people come in, so if you want to direct them in the back. So there are plenty
We can drag our stuff out of the way. Make more here.
So, but there are plenty of room. There's plenty of room. And we're also going to apologize a little bit. Our remote control for the slides, we're going to do a little bit of a manual queuing system here. So.
Great. Thank you to Mr. President, Superintendent, the board, and all the administrators who were here. We really appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. My name is Eric Cohn. I'm one of the board members of Virtual Learning Solutions. Virtual Learning Solutions is an Illinois not-for-profit organization. And our interest is in forming an online charter school to serve the interests of students in the Fox River Valley area that would benefit from that kind of a learning environment. It is not the type of education that's for everyone, nor is it in any way an indictment of the school districts that we're applying to in saying that they're bad school districts or that they're not performing their duty. There are, for a multitude of reasons, students that might be better served through online learning. We'll cover some of that in the presentation later. That's who we're particularly interested in bringing this proposal before you today. So as you can see, myself along with Charnel Jackson, Mike Scarr, John Rico, and Ted Dabrowski make up the board of Virtual Learning Solutions. Again, we're an Illinois not-for-profit organization. One of the things that we think is really important and what we're trying to do here is add a level of choice to the public school system. Why is choice important? I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. I have another child on the way. Anyone with kids knows that every child is different. All children learn differently. They have different interests. They have different talents. Providing the option for online learning, as I said, we think will suit some students in the area well and will be a positive learning environment for them. The choice gives parents and families the freedom to choose what's best for their individual child and allows families to know their child best and know what academic educational environment will serve them best to be able to select as such. Why a charter school? As I mentioned just a moment ago, I think choice is important. Charter schools are an element of choice in the system. Scale of economy, a few students who are candidates for full-time online learning that it's just not feasible or financially or operationally feasible for a lot of districts to provide that kind of system for students. Complexity, it's very difficult to get a large number of districts together to organize full-time online learning. and even more difficult to determine the administrative structure. A single charter school has one public school board to govern the entire program. Innovation, expertise, cost savings. I won't read the rest of the slide to you in the interest of moving on, even though I'm not bound by the 3-minute rule. Charter schools are public schools. So a couple important points about them. No cost tuition to parents or students, is governed by a board of directors. Teachers will be Illinois certified teachers. They will be residing in the state of Illinois. Students will take the same tests. They'll take them in a proctored setting. There'll be annual financial audits. There'll be annual academic reports, curriculum aligned to Common Core standards. They admit any student who applies. There's no discrimination or selection process. Provide full special education services and comply with IDEA, Section 504. It's a public school, again, not private, not sectarian, accountable to the state and federal requirements. Again, most importantly, we think it creates an element of choice in the system for parents that think that this will be the best environment for their kids. Laws applying to charter schools, and you can all see all of the laws that apply to school districts around the state apply to charter schools as well. From the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act all the way down through US DOE guides on applying federal civil rights law to charter schools. We have been, Virtual Learning Solutions in the process so far has been working with K-12 as a partner. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tamara Carpenter, who is going to continue the presentation for you.
Good evening, Tamara Carpenter. I'm Vice President of School Development with K-12, and so here tonight again, just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to present a little bit more about the kind of educational experience that Virtual Learning Solutions wants to offer through this charter school. Virtual Learning Solutions intends to contract with K-12 and will be providing the curriculum and other educational supports to the students that enroll in the school. So just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what our schools actually offer and what K-12 offers through the educational programs. We offer teachers, support to teachers and parents. We do offer community, books and materials, field trips, flexibility, and safety. So it's a lot of times when people hear virtual, we think of just kids sitting in front of a computer, and it's a lot more to it than that. So one of the elements to our schools is that the parent really steps up as a learning coach, and so we wanted to just give you some background on what learning coach expectations are for the parents and the guides that work with the students that are enrolled in that will be enrolled in Illinois Virtual Charter School. The learning coach, I don't want to go through all of it, but they log attendance, help with organization, with time management. They communicate regularly with teachers and counselors. A learning coach can typically, in the younger years, look to spend up to 2 to 3 hours per day, and as students age through the program, they actually spend a little bit less time in that role. Next slide. So what does K-12 provide learning coaches, the parents of the students that are enrolled? We have a beginning institute that trains the learning coaches on what to expect in the program. We do curriculum support. We have a home and life series. So for example, there might be some parents that have multiple kids in the program versus a parent that has one child, and so the expectations on what that learning coach will experience would be different. We have Learning Coach Live. There's mentors, roundtable discussions, which occur through an online setting, as well as our newsletter. Just seems like it's skipping stuff. So parent expectations. I mean, one of the things that we look at with students that enroll is that parents have reported that they expect different levels of enrollment. So nationally, parents have reported that they expect to enroll their students 1 year. You look in the color-coded, so 29% or almost 30% of the parents who enroll their students in our virtual school settings expect to enroll their children for 1 year or less. So that's quite an interesting statistic. So what will our staff be doing? What would Illinois virtual charter school staff be doing? Well, One is that 100% of them will hold valid Illinois teaching credentials. 100% of them will meet the definition of highly qualified according to No Child Left Behind. And they will be working collaboratively with families, with the parents and the teachers that are at the heart of this learning model. So again, they will hold valid Illinois teaching certificates. We expect them to live and work in the Illinois area. Of course, there'll be a preference for teachers based in the Fox River Valley area. And we expect our teachers to have at least 50 hours of initial professional development through our training and professional development services. So what are our expectations then for the teacher? One, again, they would be certified and highly qualified in their subject area. We do expect our teachers to do data analysis. That's a large part of what our teachers, with the students and how they move through the curriculum in a mastery-based manner. There's a lot of data that is generated through K-12 online management systems, and so we expect them to analyze that data and then provide very individualized responses to what the students are doing in the program. Again, differentiation and intervention. The teachers manage the pace of the course. They're supporting the learning coaches and students. They're grading student work and providing feedback. So, again, it's not just that student sitting in front of a computer just typing away. Our teachers have are expected to be very involved in that process. So what kind of training and professional development does K-12 provide? Well, one, we provide that on our curriculum. We provide that to our teachers. Also, our online pedagogy, instructional strategies, intervention strategies, and other information. And it's listed there. I don't want to go through it all, but so you can flip to the next one. So who can benefit? What kind of student benefits from this type of educational experience? Again, we don't expect this to, be a solution for every student, but it is a solution for a wide range of students. So whether that student is struggling, gifted and talented, special needs students, we have anecdotal reports time and time again from parents who maybe their child has experienced bullying, or maybe they have safety concerns, or perhaps they have a child that just wants to keep moving forward in a curriculum in a traditional setting doesn't provide for that. So in a virtual setting, it's a choice within a choice. So we really, again, we serve a wide range of students through our online school. What are our expectations for students in this? So students log into the online learning system and learning management systems daily. They're expected to check their K-mail, which is our internal communication system with our students and between the students, the teachers, and the learning coaches. They're going to be working on their coursework every day. They're attending class through our Class Connect sessions. They're expected to master 100% of Study Island lessons, and we'll talk a little bit more about Study Island later. They're completing a variety of assessments. Some of that's mastery-based through the course, the lesson assessments, the unit assessments, and semester assessments, as well as standardized tests that they'll be expected to complete. So students spend quite a bit of time, about 6 hours per day on their coursework when they're K through 5 and 6 to 9 hours in high school. So you can move forward. So a little bit about our academic report. One of the things that we have, one of our programs is our National Math Lab programs, and the gains that we've experienced through that. A lot of our students have struggles with math, and so this is one of the programs that we've, a piloted program that we came up with that'll now be rolled out throughout our national schools. And the idea that our students need more time on task with math. So.
Can I ask you, when it says Scantron Games, is that the Scantron Performance Assessment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So what kind of accountability do we have? Again, we follow all state testing requirements, national instructional model, state reporting. We're reporting to the board of directors. The authorizing entity is going to be having oversight, No Child Left Behind and AYP goals, and the individual learning plans of our students. So what is the educational program, or I can explain some of it, but there's a lot. But specifically, it's designed for K through 12 online delivery. We're based on decades of education research and cognitive science. We have more than 185 K through 12 online courses that'll be available to our students in the program. 21,000 individual lessons. So we've got innovative online technologies, more than 100,000 multimedia components. I mean, it's extensive. Full wet labs for richer learning experience for our students, and a lot of people don't think that's possible, but we actually do wet labs with our students as well. Integrated textbooks and hands-on materials, so it's not all just online. Students are going to receive, again, books, materials, manipulatives, and supplies. They'll have the online curriculum, planning, and progress tools. For some of our students, free and reduced lunch students, we have offered computers and monitors and printers as needed, as well as an internet reimbursement, but that's decided at the board level, so the board makes that ultimate decision. Again, access to Illinois certified teachers. And the other thing is group outings. We do field trips, academic workshops, enrichment activities. So again, students aren't just sitting in front of a computer typing away all day. Move forward. One of the things I really like to do is kind of give a snapshot of what the student sees on a daily basis. So this is a really good example. When a student logs into the online learning system, there's a to-do list. They get to see lessons, and the parents also get to see this, the learning coach. So they know exactly what their student is supposed to be accomplishing for that day. So, and it breaks it down even further. So, you know, a lesson, unit, quizzes that student will have to go through. It's very bright, it's engaging, and our students are developing a level of ownership over their education because they can see exactly what they have to accomplish. They're going to be noting their progress throughout their lessons. So how well are they mastering it, and how quickly are they mastering it, and what does it look like, and what do they still have to accomplish? And accountability, again, they can see their grades, they can see what they've completed and not completed. And that was earlier, K through 8, this is the high school. So our high schoolers also have the same access to the same information, types of information. So this is something that not only the student, but that parent and that teacher is able to access to see. So what other kind of programs do we offer? Special education, English language learners, gifted and talented, Title I, National Honor Society. We've got student clubs, graduation ceremony, so it's a full, robust educational experience for our students. These are some pictures of some of the field trips that our students have taken, and the kind of clubs are national clubs that they can be involved in. And this is our summer camps, so there's summer activities as well. And some of the national events that our students get involved in, whether it's Spelling Bee or Operation Lemonade. So there's a lot of socialization that happens. So some of this I went over, but go back.
Maybe back up one.
Go back. So in terms of accreditation, K-12 has corporate accreditation from Advanced Ed. It's the organization made up of the North Central Association Commission on Accreditation and School Improvement, the Northwest Accreditation Commission, and the Southern Association of Colleges and School Council on Accreditation and School Improvement. So financial impact. We expect to enroll about 0.25 to 0.5% of the district's total enrollment. So that's kind of how what we've estimated and what Illinois Virtual Charter School looks to enroll. So what about the financial impact? Illinois statute, allows for a level of funding between 75 to 125% of the district's per capita student tuition. What we've estimated is about $8,000 per student, which lies within that range, on the low side of that range. Again,
84%.
84%. So year one projections, again, it's about, we're looking at about 0.25%, 1 to 500 students within the Fox River Valley area. between the 18, and that's between the 18 districts. Of course, this is subject to negotiation with the school district. Do we have any questions?
Okay, thank you very much. The next part of our informational meeting will be the school district administration. Before we get into that, if there's anyone in the audience that would wish to address the board, please raise your hand and someone will bring you a sheet which you are required to put your name and address on the front side. And it has our board policy and state statute on the back side. And I will need that sheet in order to, yep. So just when Kathy comes back, just hold your hand up and we'll be able to get, when we get to that point of our meeting. Okay, well, to the point of the members of school district administration, questions, Dr. Bershner.
I'm going to start and just kind of give an overview of what we have done in this process. So as superintendent, I'm charged with the responsibility for reviewing and considering any programs that are going to impact the Batavia School District students prior to making any recommendation to the Board of Education. So our cabinet of district-level administrators and department heads have read and reviewed the chapter proposal submitted by Virtual Learning Solutions by the charter, and we have questions regarding those, and we're going to put those together in an organized manner. So I get to lead off with just a couple of baseline, and then senior management will take the rest of the questions as well. I'll use my studied version, the coffee-stained version as well. But Tony, if I could have my first slide. So what I want to make clear is in the charter school legislation, it states very clearly that we are looking at the proposal or the contract, that this is the contract that Virtual Learning Solutions is presenting to the board for consideration. That's what it says, so you have to present to the state board and the local school board in the form of a proposed contract. So this represents the contract you are proposing to this board.
It is the proposal to the board.
Okay, so, and it has to be then, it's called the proposal, but it is the proposed contract. So we really can't talk about negotiations because this is the proposed contract. The board can't consider anything else other than what you have proposed to them because it would be hard for them to determine what is the proposal, what is not the proposal. The proposal is what is written. That's a clear part in what we have to go over. Next slide, please. So also, I want to make clear that Virtual Learning Solutions intends to contract, and this is verbatim from the proposal, with K-12 Virtual Schools, LLC, and it's a wholly owned subsidiary of K-12 Inc., to be the educational management organization and to provide curriculum and administrative services. And that's the role. So I'm trying to define the role as a board member and then the role as the contractor. And we'll get a little bit deeper into what that relationship is. So in a general overview, here's what I've kind of put together is Virtual Learning Solutions, the not-for-profit organization, will hold the charter. They'll monitor K-12's performance. They will lease office space within the geographical boundaries and have agreed in the proposal to a 10-year contract with K-12. K-12 Virtual Schools, LLC, owned by K-12 Inc., will provide turnkey management, K-12 curriculum, learning management, teacher training, recruitment management, financial services, administrative services, technology services, online platform, student account management, related technical support, special education service, related services for IEP. They will also recommend all policies, procedures, and authorizations, procedures, and assume all financial risk and reimburse startup costs. That's verbatim from the proposal. I'm trying to put a one-page summary in front. So this is how we've read the proposal and what we are seeing. So, Mr. Cohen, you're representing the charter, the Virtual Learning Solutions, and you're representing K-12. I'm sorry, and I've lost names here someplace. Tamara. Carpenter, Ms. Carpenter. So that's the relationship. Do I understand the relationship of what's proposed in the contract?
In general, I don't, know about all of those points, but
I'm not expecting you to, but this is my interpretation, so that we can start then looking at some of the details then in the proposal. So that's to me the general summary of what is the big ideas that are in the proposal. So we've broken our questioning then down from operations, finance, and curriculum. So we'll try to keep them topical as we go along. So Mr. Inglesi, you want to start with operations?
Sure. What is the specific targeted student population that this proposal and the charter school intends to serve?
There's no profile of a specific type of student that we're looking at. As I said in the beginning, this is not for everyone. I know in talking with K-12, they've said that they've had some people go to online learning because they thought that it would be really easy and they could skate by, and they find that it's actually a very rigorous curriculum and it's not for them. So in the presentation, we talked about the 500 students was what we were looking at, which is between 0.25 and 0.5% of the enrollment of the districts that we have applied to.
So do you have any data that indicates that Batavia Schools is not meeting the needs of the population that you intend to serve?
No.
no. This is about choice, and for some students, they just may choose a different type of school setting, but it's not any kind of a statement on what kind of education is being provided by the district.
The charter school article of the Illinois School Code seeks, quote, a high level of pupil, local pupil, parental, community, business, and school personnel support to start a charter school. What specific evidence do you have from residents of this district that indicate such?
Well, we've had over 1,000 parents from the Fox River Valley area request information about and give evidence of support that they would like this as an option for their children.
Do you have any numbers specifically for Batavia?
What I would need to do is go ask someone on our team to be able to deliver that information to you, and if that's something that you need to maybe present that to the board in writing and get that for you.
Would you tell us more about the relationship between K-12 Incorporated and K-12 LLC?
K-12 Virtual LLC is, again, the wholly owned subsidiary, meaning that it is wholly controlled by K-12 corporate.
Okay. So who owns the curriculum and the intellectual property that's being served to the Illinois Virtual Learning Solutions?
That's a better question for legal, so to define that specifically, and I can find that out for you.
So is it clear in this contract which company is providing which services to whom?
Again, I think that's a better question for legal.
The proposal suggests that Illinois Virtual Learning Solutions will employ teachers and the K-12 LLC will employ administrators. Is that correct?
That's what's being proposed at this point. The final services agreement hasn't been negotiated, so that could still potentially change.
Will the head of school and administration for the charter school be Illinois certified administrators?
Yes.
How will the Illinois Virtual School hold administrators accountable?
Well, accountability has, it occurs at a number of different levels, and we talked a little bit about that in our slides. One is that there's the governing board that has a level of accountability to authorize or plays a role in accountability. K-12 will have a role in accountability. We have our own rubrics for evaluating administrators as well, so that occurs on a number of different levels.
So will the new laws, Illinois Senate Bill 7 and PARA, the Performance Evaluation and Review Act, that administrators and teachers are held accountable for in Illinois, will those laws apply to administrators and teachers in this virtual charter school?
That's probably a question that we would need to get back to you.
How will performance metrics be used to assess the performance of the school itself, and who will determine that?
Well, again, performance, we talk about performance evaluation. There are metrics that we use internally, K-12 does, but there's also, I mean, you mentioned just a few of them, Lisa, that I need to get more information on before getting back to you. But internally, we do have rubrics evaluation. For instance, for our teachers, and our rubrics are based on Charlotte Danielson's evaluation system. So, it's actually very extensive, and we can provide more information to you that if you need something more specific than that.
So beyond the individual level, at the school level, what do those metrics look like, and who determines them?
Beyond the individual level?
So not about accountability for individuals, but let's say accountability for the school as a whole, not necessarily as a person.
The operations that, in terms of K-12, is accountable to the governing board, and the governing board has a say in what those metrics are, as well as the authorizer, and then we look to state and federal regulations.
What are the current and past funding sources of Illinois Virtual Learning Solutions?
I'm not sure I'm understanding that. I'm not sure I understand that question.
Where does the Illinois Virtual Learning Solutions get their money to actually start this venture?
I'd have to speak with the rest of the board and get back to you on that. Sorry. Because I'd have to speak with the rest of the board, and I can get back to you on that.
Okay, so we'll just put that down as a kind of a follow-up.
Right.
Yes,
follow-up.
absolutely.
Are members of the Illinois Virtual Learning Solutions Board compensated?
No.
Have they been, or might they be in the future?
Not to my knowledge.
Not compensated as members of the board.
Illinois School Code also stipulates that charter school petitioners must identify minimum and maximum numbers of pupils that will be enrolled in the charter school. These numbers are not found in your proposal. So what have you established as the maximum and minimum numbers, particularly for students relative to Batavia Public Schools?
Well, what we've provided is estimates, and if you need more than that, we'll have to get back to you. So that's a follow-up question.
Mr. Blakey, can I follow up on something from Mr. Young? I want to go back to the funding sources. Mr. Cohn, you're the treasurer of the Illinois Virtual Schools, or the Virtual Learning Solutions,
Yes.
And you can't articulate where any of the funding sources have come from?
I'm the recent join of the board, so at this point in time, I can't answer that question.
Thank you.
Just for your information, Chris, last night I was at the St. Charles meeting version of this. We had different representative from K-12 there. He told us last night that K-12 gave $30,000 to Virtual Learning Solutions to start up the process here.
Thank you, Chair.
The attorney he's probably correct on that. I'd be happy to confirm it with you.
Well, you mentioned that students may see equipment in the form of computers or internet service. Earlier you mentioned that it's up to the board, the Illinois Virtual Solutions Board, to determine that. What are the criteria for which students would receive these services and equipment?
Well, with our other schools, we typically will provide that for students that, free and reduced lunch and based upon need as determined by K-12 and the board.
So, okay, need and low income status.
Typically it's been based on low income status, and that's happened because nationally, when we provided a broader format, many of the homes where we sent the computers actually already had computers in the home, and then they were looking for, well, can we just send them back? We're not utilizing them. So again, instead of just providing them on a broad basis, we provide them on an as-needed basis. But again, the final decision is at the board level.
Will any fees be charged for use of equipment or materials?
I don't have an answer to that question, so I would have to get back to you.
And then a follow-up question to that would be, if there are fees, do you have provisions to account for students of low income status?
We do have provisions to account for students of low income status. Absolutely.
Let's see. Will teachers be part of a collective bargaining unit?
That's probably a better question for legal.
The proposal indicates that your chief information officer will be responsible for the financial records of the Illinois Virtual Charter School, but will be employed by K-12. Is that a conflict of interest, and will those records be subject to the Freedom of Information Act?
I'll need to defer that to our legal.
The proposal indicates that, quote, parents are encouraged to hold direct leadership positions and influence the management of the school by serving on the Illinois Virtual Charter School at Fox River Valley Board, end quote. How is this board chosen? Who elects and appoints the members? How long are their terms of service? And how often do they meet? And are they subject to the state's ethics and training requirements?
I'm not certain of those if those terms have been determined yet. I can get back to you.
I'm sure.
It appears that K-12 would handle all the payroll and benefits, but the proposal also states that the board will be responsible for all financial matters. Will the board be responsible for paying employee salaries?
K-12 provides those services as part of the as part of the services agreement, products and services agreement. However, the board is ultimately responsible as the governing board for oversight of that.
So to clarify, the proposal states that the board will hold direct responsibility for all financial matters, is what I think I'm hearing you saying. But K-12 will oversee day-to-day finances and management of the school?
For a more detailed answer than what I did, we probably need to follow up on that.
All right. Will there be face-to-face training for teachers, and where will that occur? And what will that look like?
We do, K-12 does provide some face-to-face, but the majority of our training happens online.
Will there be face-to-face meetings with students and teachers?
It's a virtual school, so, beyond some of what you saw was the field trips and the social, the outing, and in those instances, there is some face-to-face with teachers, but it's a fully virtual school.
Your proposal indicates that there is encouraged face-to-face meetings between teachers and students. Are there any limits and guidelines for what types of public locations where these individuals might meet, for where teachers would provide instruction and coordinate?
Internally we do. I don't have the specific answers for that. But when you talk about face-to-face, I mean, we have Illuminate sessions where students actually see their teachers. So there's some of that happens virtually. But again, for a more detailed answer to that, I would need to follow up with you.
So when you chose it, in your OS criteria, is the location that's actually chosen? Is there any stipulation on that, meaning that it's close to where students actually in fact live?
As I stated that internally we do. I'm not an expert in that area, so I can't provide the specifics on that, but we will follow up and present that question to the board, and the board will follow up, and we'll be able to get you that answer.
What is K-12's retention rate? Meaning what percentage of students who enroll in K-12 schools actually graduate from school itself?
Well, the retention is different from our graduation rate, and graduation rates actually are calculated on a school-to-school basis. So K-12 doesn't actually have it. We don't have a national graduation rate, but in terms of retention, actually don't have that figure right at the tip of my tongue, but that's something that we can get back to you on.
So we talk about churn, churn rate and retention. And it's been noted in media that K-12 has a relatively high churn rate. Some suggest as high as 50%. What programs and strategies, if any, have been implemented to help students to adjust and cope with the self-discipline required to be successful in an online learning environment?
Well, I don't know about answering the whole question because there was a statement before that about our churn rate, but in terms of strategies to help students adjust, I mentioned before the training that is the training that students receive, the training that the learning coaches receive. when they first enroll in the online school and throughout the student and the learning coach's experience in the school. One of the slides also, we talked about when parents enroll their students, their children in the online school, how long they expect to enroll their student from the beginning. So 30% of parents that enroll their students only expect to have their students in the school for 1 year or less to begin with. So that accounts for some of the retention or lack of retention that we see in our students.
So do you have any programs to help increase retention?
We do. To give you the specifics, I can get back to you on that, the specific programs that we offer.
Other than K-12, I don't know if this is a question for Eric, but other than K-12, who else did you consider to operate your virtual charter school?
There is no contract in place with K-12 right now. It is only they've only worked with us as a partner up until this point.
So do you have plans to consider other partners?
Board has not determined that yet.
And if you did, would there be an open bidding process or request for proposals?
It has not been determined yet.
Your proposal does state that you intend to contract with K-12 to provide these services, does it not?
We have an intention to say that that's not the same as to say that it's a certainty or that it's absolutely going to happen. There is no contract in place presently.
But you presented us with a contract. You have to present us with the proposal.
As a proposal,
that is the
yes.
contract. So are we to entertain that there will be an open bidding process? You will, as a board, go through some sort of open process to seek vendors? Or do we go by the contract you presented?
I would have to say go by the contract, the proposal as presented.
Okay, so there's no open process, no bidding process, no RFP, no RFQ, no... So the contract, because the contract, a proposed contract is in the proposal with K-12.
Yes, there's a proposed contract in there.
Okay, thank you.
How do you plan to support homeless students? Related equipment, internet services, and transportation that would be related to those needs related to those students?
I would have to get back to you on that from the office.
Those are all my questions. Mr. Meyer?
On to some more of the financial aspects now. The proposed contract that our board is deciding upon or getting information on has essentially 3 different enrollment estimates in it. On one page, we estimate 2,000 students for the total school. Then in the budget appendix, there's 3,000. And then in your presentation, you're talking about half of the total enrollment, which is the most credible that this board should be, evaluating the impact based on.
Actually, it was 0.25 to 0.5%, and it was a range of enrollments for the district. So, that could account for some of the difference between what you see in the budget and the 2,000, so the 0.25 to 0.5, not half. Actually. And so then that works out to the 500 students in the first year. And these are estimates.
Then that would be less than 2,000, which is the lowest that's in the proposal. My next question, K-12 Inc. is obviously going to provide all the services for this. It is a for-profit enterprise, and our data shows that in 2011, the Chicago Virtual School, also managed by K-12, got paid $2.5 million, or about half of its total revenue. How much of the $8 million budget that's proposed for us would be paid to K-12?
I'll have to actually defer that to our financial staff for a more detailed explanation.
Flipping the page. Will and how will the Illinois Virtual School, sorry, wrong name. I know that's a different name. Will and how will this proposed charter school return any unspent funding to the local school districts?
That's something that we would have to
Defer to financial legal? In the budget area, there's a section for administration and oversight. it starts at 1.2 million. And then it goes up 50% in year 2, and then 33%, and then 25%. What's the justification for this cost jumping by so much year after year?
Defer that to financial.
Deferring that to financial. Section 11.2 of the contract between Virtual Learning Solutions and K-12, it allows for termination if there's a material reduction in program revenue. What would constitute a material reduction?
That's what, that we would need to defer that to financial.
Will the virtual school be using any of the money that it gets from the local districts to advertise?
I do not believe so. I'd have to check to get back to you that.
Back to the administrative costs. Can you provide an overview of what the administrative costs entail? What are the paid positions? And do any of the officers listed for the, well, we already covered that one. So can you provide an overview of your administrative costs?
Well, at the beginning of your presentation, you listed all of the things that we said that we would provide in the services agreement, but in terms of the administrator, there's a head of school, there's assistant head of school, there are operations manager, technology manager, I mean, all of those, and the services that are coincident with that, but that's just to name some of them.
Do you have those positions dedicated to this specific charter school, or are they kind of national?
There are positions dedicated to the specific charter school as well as national positions, but there are specific to this school, yes.
Are there any budgeted or planned expenditures that would include gifts or payments to charities, religious organizations, and/or political organizations?
No.
Who do you plan on using to conduct an annual audit of the financial transactions?
That has not been decided yet.
Have you had a discussion of what auditing standards will be used?
That has not been decided yet.
And will the public school districts involved receive a copy of the annual audits?
That's required by the authorizer, then yes,
If it's required by the authorizer?
it's required.
I think I can skip that next one. In your proposal, you've said $8,000 per student, yet in another slide, and Illinois charter law says it has to be between 75% and 125% of our per capita tuition charge. Our most recent per capita tuition was $11,760-ish. I don't have the number right in front of me. So 75% of that is well above $8,000. And yet the proposed contract that you have in front of our board is showing $8,000, which probably isn't allowable by law. How would you respond to that?
Well, you threw out a lot of numbers right then, but again, I would defer that to financial to get, for that specific question. But we estimated, the estimate that we had for per capita worked out, 84% of that worked out to $8,000 per capita.
But you,
that was
well,
based on our estimate.
Do you agree that you get at least 75% of Batavia Public Schools per capita tuition charge for each of the Batavia students?
Our estimate is based off of a 75 to 125%. So if you're coming with a different figure, again, we will present that to our finance people and follow up.
Thank you. And how did you arrive at the $8,000 per student that you were requesting in your proposal?
The $8,000 per student was based on our understanding of 84. It works out to about 84%, but it's based upon the cost that we expected to. I'm really feel more comfortable with deferring that to finance.
our understanding of the law and how you get your funding is based on your enrollments on the first day of school. From Batavia, the state would defer portions of funding that they would normally send us to the school based on your enrollments. If a student leaves the school and during the second week or the third week, what happens to the $800 or the $8,000 that has been sent to you if you are not actually going to be educating that student for any long-term portion of time?
To defer that and get back to you.
I'd say I do. As I understand it, there's 2 days that that's based on, one in September and one in February. So a student that would be there in September that would then transfer into the district. When it trues up in February, then that money would move to the district. To my understanding, it would operate the same way as it would from a student going from one regular public school district to another regular public school district.
No, our funding is based on average daily attendance, the kids that are actually here, and it's a 3-month average. So it is not based on enrollments on first day of school or enrollments on the 6th day of school or in February generally. It's based on attendance. So would the virtual school consider any type of agreement where they would refund based on attendance rather than total enrollment?
Again, as my understanding, everything would be negotiated with the authorizer.
The charter school code also establishes that proportionate share of state and federal resources generated by students with disabilities or certain targeted populations be directed to the charter schools. Your budget doesn't really contain an estimate of this provision or these funds. I think I'm going to know the answer to this one, but how and when will you estimate the number of students with disabilities and the related revenues and expenditures required to support them?
Well, the budget was a proposed budget in the draft, and special education funding was one of the things that we are still generating more information about. So that is something that our financial experts are still working on, and we'll get back with you on that.
And I believe in your definition of program revenues, from which K-12 gets 15% and then 7% for their various fees, that this proportionate share, so dollars that would be coming to the district or the charter school for the direct education of those students, would then be diverted into the for-profit K-12 enterprise. Is that your understanding as well?
It's not my understanding, but you could pose that question, and our finance expert will get back to you.
It's listed underneath your definition of program revenues in the contract between virtual learning solutions and K-12. Will K-12 provide the district with financial records showing how much it spent to educate each district student each year?
I don't have an answer for that.
Is that a defer to the financials?
That's a defer.
This is something that I meant to follow up when Mr. Inglesi was asking questions. Section 7.5 of the proposed contract between virtual learning and K-12, and I'm sorry I didn't write down a page number, so if people are trying to flip along, but it indicates that basically all administrators and teachers will be employees of K-12, not of virtual learning solutions. It actually says that it almost intends to have no employees of virtual learning solutions except as those required to maintain a tax-exempt status. Will virtual learning solutions have any employees of their own?
I need to defer that to legal because I don't have that page in front of me, and I would prefer to defer that.
But earlier you did state that it was your understanding that the teachers would be employed by virtual learning solutions and not K-12. And this part seems to contradict that. So can you answer, who do you imagine the teachers being employed by?
Well, look, that's something that the board and K-12 would need to finalize in its negotiating the finalized services agreement, which hasn't been done yet.
I'll jump right to that then. When do we expect to actually have a finalized services agreement that our board could evaluate?
We're in the process. The board in K-12 is in the process. I don't have a specific date for you at this time.
Thank you. How are the teacher salary and benefits figures calculated? Is there a base salary that you're using in the estimates, or?
that's something that I would have to defer to our budget, the finance department that created the budget.
This one's going to get just as specific, so I'm guessing, but there's no budget amount for a family support coordinator for the first 2 years of the proposal. Can you describe that position and why it wouldn't be involved in the first 2 years?
I cannot at this point, so if you pose that question to the board or to K-12, we will respond.
So we can't even define what a family support coordinator is doing?
I cannot at this, I personally cannot.
And I have a feeling that I'm going to get similar answers in a couple of these. I'm just going to state them so that for the record we've got them out there. In one of the sections of your budget, specifically the administration and oversight, there's no benefits and taxes amounts listed in the first year, and then it's estimated at 23%. I'd like to know what does the 23% constitute? What goes into that 23%? And also in the teacher cost section, taxes and benefits and taxes are listed at 30%. So why the discrepancy? What's involved in those that's not involved in the administration? Let's see, repeat question. I apologize about that. In addition to the 22% of the program revenues to pay for the administrative and technological fees, what portion of the teacher cost would be paid to K-12 for materials and services? And this is referring to budget now. There's a teacher cost section specifically in the budget.
I don't know, and I will have to find out and get back with you.
Probably going to be similar. How much of the amounts classified as student and family services will be paid to K-12 Inc. Or K-12 LLC, so we don't get them confused. The proposal states that this charter school intends to apply for a Department of Education public charter school grant and a Walton Family Foundation public charter school startup grant. If the charter receives this grant money, how does it intend to use it?
That has not been determined yet.
But in accordance with grant requirements.
Of course.
And would those also constitute program revenues from which the 7% and the 15% would immediately go to K-12?
I don't believe that was stated, but I will follow up on that question.
Thank you. What startup costs have already been spent?
I would have to get back to you on what exactly has been spent.
And we already talked a little bit about startup grants, so you also don't know how any startup costs have been obtained at this time? How any of the funds for the startup have been obtained, other than what our attorney indicated? I'm interested in what additional startup costs are anticipated, but obviously that's going to be deferred. The proposal between Virtual Schools and K-12 Inc. also says that any startup costs, such as the $50,000 startup, also accrues interest to K-12 for the startup. Where in the budget would we find the anticipated interest cost for the loan that's already been received?
I don't have the answer to that.
The proposal states that the charter school shall be responsible for monitoring K-12's performance under the agreement, but the head of the school is a K-12 employee, as is the director of finance, and as one of the sections says, all of the administrators and all of the teachers. How is this not a conflict of interest in managing this?
I can't speak to, again, we're still under negotiation in terms of the products and services agreement. And so, but with some of our schools that we're in, K-12 employs the teachers versus where K-12 doesn't employ the teachers, the governing board is the ultimate authority over the school. And there's rubrics, performance. I mean, some of those terms are worked out in the services agreement, but exactly how the board is monitoring K-12's performance, and they hold us accountable. And if we're not meeting standards, then they have the ability to cancel the contract. I mean, it's about us performing in accordance with them. So some of those metrics are still under consideration as we're moving through the negotiation products for the products and services agreement.
Has K-12 Inc. ever had any contracts canceled for lack of performance?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't, but we can get back with you on that.
Thank you. I think I have gotten through my initial list, so I will.
Can I ask a question before we go into curriculum to make sure I'm understanding this correctly? We're having our hearing as required by law. In the event that within a 30-day period, this board votes this down, you appeal to the whoever regulates this through the state, then the state can award you the ability to enter into the school district. Is that correct?
State can award them,
So-
authorize the charter school.
So I've got this agreement here that you are not even engaged with K-12 through yet. I have to make a decision, or this board has to make a decision in 30 days. These questions went out last week to your organizations, correct? Am I correct?
Shorter version, but yeah.
And we are getting and I understand this, and you guys are doing a great job in a very difficult situation, but I'm sure you can see where my point, before we get into the curriculum, we're asked to make a decision on something we can't gather any data on. So if we vote it down, is that an easier conduit for you to go to the state and go through their regulations to try to get into this district versus then this board voting yes, then negotiating the contract? Do you see the question I'm asking?
I do see the question you're asking, and our
this came
intention
out
is to, that you
as a
have a lot of...
proposal that effectively is...
The questions
not
that
doing-
the questions that you're asking, I can't personally answer them this evening. However, if you present those to us, present those to the board and to K-12 in writing, we will do our utmost best to get you the answers in a timely fashion.
Not a doubt in my mind, I'm
So
sure you would.
I can't personally answer those questions this evening, and I wish that I could, but I can't. So.
But is that, am I understanding the process and the avenue through this? So if this board says, no, we're voting this down, you have the opportunity to appeal to the State Regulatory Commission on charter schools, and in turn, they can pass your proposals, and charter schools are coming into Batavia.
That's
Correct.
our understanding.
So in the event this board says yes, and we vote yes on this, then we begin negotiations of a contract like this as individual districts, correct?
Well, that's a bit unclear. We heard different things last night.
There's a lot of things that appear to be a bit unclear.
Well, initially, the proposal says if any one school district rejects this, you're going to the Charter Commission. Is that still your position?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not really within the control of this board. You could vote yes, heck, 16 other districts could vote yes with you. If one votes no, they won't be negotiating with you on this.
So then are we bound, I'm sorry, but then are we bound by the ruling from the Charter Commission?
Yes, if what the Charter Commission could do then is authorize the school over your objection, and what will happen then is if they, let's say they authorize the $8,000 per student, when they assess their enrollment, perhaps on the first day of school or second day, however the Charter Commission decides to do it, they'll simply take the number of students from this school district, multiply it by $8,000, and take that right off the top of your general state aid. So you'll never see the money. The state will keep it and send it to Virtual Learning Solutions, who will then share it according to their agreement with K-12 Inc.
So I guess my question is on to Virtual Learning Solutions and K-12. Is this just kind of jumping through the hoops to get to the Regulatory Commission? I mean, because it seems to me that these questions were forwarded, we did forward these questions a week or so ago, and I understand it's a huge thing, and you guys are in a very difficult spot and you don't have the answers, but you chose to be here.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm kind of looking for, we could go on to curriculum and ask these questions, and I don't really see a value to it, to be perfectly honest. Other board member input? It's apparent that we sent questions out, they're not answered. We have a proposal here that There's nothing, I mean, it's a proposal that's not negotiated amongst two entities that are, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, stop me, against two entities that are proposing something to us, and they're not even engaged together.
No, they are not as of yet. We were told that that would happen after we decided if we wanted to work with them. Is what we were told last night, that there would actually be different contracts, one with VLS in the school district, one with VLS in K-12. I don't know if there would be a separate agreement with K-12 and this district, but I was told last night to expect to negotiate with K-12's attorneys. So I'm still in the dark too. Traditionally, when I've dealt with charter school proposals before in the state, back to the portion of the statute that Jack mentioned earlier, it states that you bring the proposal in the form of a contract. That gives the board something. We know who them were proposing to do business.
This was my understanding,
That's
correct?
been the way I've had it happen in the past. And then we assess the contract against the legal requirements in the school code, and we address it whether it's in the best interest of the students it's designed to serve. And then we react to the contract proposer. So in this case, we don't have any contracts yet to consider. And this was brought up last night as well, as the same sort of conundrum that other boards are dealing with, which was, how do we decide if we want to approve this when we don't have a proposal to
And
approve?
our understanding from the governing board's attorney that did reach out to the state Department of Education was that it's the first step is that we present a proposal, that proposal is what is considered by you, the board, and that the contract then is developed after there's a decision on that proposal.
I'm confused.
But before
I
we go
thought
to-
we determined at the outset that that was the contract.
And I'm just stating that the governing board's legal had a different response from the Department of
So
Education.
let me ask the key
Let's just keep it
question.
right here, okay?
So
Please.
it really goes to virtual learning, and Mr. Cohen, if you're a member of the board, is this the proposal that will be presented to the state, or after you talk to the 18 school districts, will a different proposal be presented to the State Charter School Commission?
I would have to get back to you on that question. I don't know if it's a different proposal or the same proposal.
No, that's the key question. Either you gave us a real proposal,
It's
or
not.
you
It's not
didn't.
it's not a false proposal, sir.
Okay, so then this would have to be the proposal that you're going to give to the Charter School Commission. Otherwise, I've spent 2 weeks
Yes, that is
going
the
through a proposal
I
that
think
doesn't
we're talking about
exist.
semantics. We're talking about proposal.
No, we're
and
talking
contract.
about the
No, I'm
Illinois
saying
law.
that we're saying
We-
contract and proposal, and we're saying that that is the proposal. Yes, that is.
Schools shall be submitted to the state board and local board in the form of a proposal, a proposed contract.
That there are elements of that proposal that is negotiated between the governing board and the authorizer, elements of the proposal. So when we talk about the $8,000 funding, that still can be, am I correct that that's negotiated or negotiable?
It could be if they approved it, but generally.
Correct, but if they approved it, that could be negotiable, and that's what we're saying, that there's a proposal, that there are elements of that proposal that are negotiable.
But there's
That's
nothing
what we're
about
saying.
this proposal that's a contract. There's nowhere for both parties to sign this proposal and say, well, let's tweak a few areas here and there, and then let's sign off on this thing. It's a
And what we
marketing
heard from,
proposal. Okay, your council told you didn't have to do it. I think that's the
That-
answer.
Okay, that's
You
actually,
didn't have to do it.
All right, I have a question. I have a statement and I have a question. First to Ron. I would like to see these questions on curriculum instruction. I would like to see them asked so that we have a public record
Okay.
of
Get 'em on the
the
record.
questions
I'm fine with
and
that.
the answers. And then, John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Many of the answers were, I'm going to defer to, K-12's legal department or their financial department, whatever.
Correct.
If it takes them just, let's say, 2 weeks to get back with those answers, do we then have 30 days from when that 2 weeks is?
No, you have 30 days
From today, no matter what happens. So
That's
they could get
correct.
back to us the day before, 30 days from
If you
now.
don't act within the 30 days, they can go to the State Charter Commission and go, see, the board didn't act, so we're coming to you now.
I apologize for derailing this. Let's get back to
I
curriculum.
believe Mr.
Actually, I had two others that came to me, if I let Mr. Newkirk know. Who is the legal counsel for the governing board that has advised you on which way to go on this?
We've worked with Holland and Knight.
Thank you. And how many times has the board of directors met to discuss this proposal or this proposed contract, or the draft services agreement with K-12?
The board has met 3 times, I believe 3 times before now.
Are there minutes of these meetings that, I mean, this is going to be a public charter school, so are these minutes that people could review?
There are minutes.
Are those things that could be sent out to?
I would have to check with our legal department as for the process for that, but
Those are my 2. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for getting derailed. Let's go to curriculum. Back to the agenda. My apologies. Mr. Newkirk.
Are parents required to be learning coaches for their students to enroll in BLS?
The parents are not required, there is required to be a learning coach. Doesn't have to be a parent.
They're required to be, it's a requirement to have a learning coach?
A learning
But it
coach.
doesn't have to be the parent? Okay. What are the charter's plans for additional parent involvement, parent-teacher conferences, or other events like that?
I can't speak to the exact nature of what was in the proposal, but there are, we mentioned some of them in the presentation, the K-mail, there's parent can, and there's a requirement that the teacher gets back to the parent within 24 hours, if the parent emails the teacher. But there's a variety of different methods for parent-teacher communication, or parent-learning coach communication. If you want a more detailed response, back to our...
Are the learning coaches compensated at all for their time?
No.
What are the hours that the teachers are available to the students?
Well, it's a virtual learning setting, so it really depends. Some teachers are the morning, some, a lot of our teachers are, till 11 o'clock at night, just they're responsive, but there's a requirement that they respond within 24 hours, but it varies.
So learning is not synchronous, it's asynchronous?
They're synchronous and asynchronous, and so it depends upon the class, the teacher, it varies.
Can you talk a little bit more about when teachers might interact personally with students other than through the computer?
I think we spoke to that earlier, that some of the, but not all of them, through our field trips, our social outings, but it's a virtual school.
If Virtual Learning Solutions has not operated a charter school before in the past, what track record does Virtual Learning Solutions have to demonstrate their probable success?
Could you repeat
I'm sorry.
the question?
Yeah, it's virtual.
How do we anticipate your probable success, because you've never run a charter school before?
I'm not entirely certain how to answer that question. How do we anticipate our probable success?
What are the things that the board is doing to ensure the success of this charter school?
Beyond saying that the board plans to do its due diligence in providing governance for the organization in the same way that this board provides governance for the public school system. This is best an answer I can give to that question.
Okay. Given the way that K-12 has been portrayed in recent news stories, why do you believe that K-12 is a good choice for the provider of the infrastructure for your proposed charter school?
Virtual Learning Solutions reviewed the situations that you have alluded to. We investigated them. We also had a board member, our board president, Charnel Jackson, who was familiar with K-12 from her involvement with Chicago Public Schools, Chicago Virtual Charter School. We believe that the situations that have been portrayed in the media have been hyped, included misinformation, in some cases have just been wrong, and have found K-12 so far to have been a good partner.
What are some of the inaccuracies that are in the media?
There's a couple of slides that we have on that, but they were at the back of the presentation.
I can pull them up.
Yeah. Well, one would be the New York Times article, which some of you may be familiar with, but recently there was that came to resolution, and the allegations were found to be without merit. So if you go, so it's like scroll through Tennessee, Florida, so go back to class action. So no, I'm sorry. I thought I saw a class action slide. No, I'm sorry, there we go, right there, I'm sorry. So the class action lawsuit was brought up, for example, on the basis of the New York Times article, and recently that action was voluntarily and permanently dismissed. The federal court, after looking over millions of pages of documentation and speaking with staff and witnesses, found that those claims were without merit. And so the New York Times article was hyped up and based on erroneous and unsubstantiated information. So that was as an example.
Is this the same, was there not also a settlement on the other side of this specific?
There was a settlement, but the settlement was basically, it was $6 million versus what would have been 20 to 25 millions of dollars.
Over how many years?
Over how many years when the claim itself was unsubstantiated, and it would have been, that's what the federal court found.
So was the suit dismissed, or was it settled, or?
It was voluntarily and permanently dismissed.
I mean, at least what I have read, and I'm not an expert in this, but I believe I read that the settlement was on an enrollment or like a data issue on some of the enrollments. The settlement, like you're claiming here, or the dismissal was on the merits of academic success. I believe I read both, but can you respond at all?
If you need any more information on that, we can provide more information, but I just wanted to bring that slide up as an example of some of the erroneous information that's out there that we were able to address. So, anyway.
Most of the research on successful online learning really suggests that a blended model where students and teachers are interacting plus online learning opportunities is the most successful. I'm curious why Virtual Learning School chose to go to a fully online version.
After mostly speaking with experience that Ms. Jackson had with the Chicago Virtual School, it was considered by the board, and that was the decision that we made.
How will the charter school ensure that students meet the minimum instructional time requirements in school codes?
Bless you. Again. Bless you.
Everything comes in threes.
Right.
I guess, how do you confirm student attendance? You said an approximate number of hours.
Students log in to the system, and that system tracks it. I mean, it's very detailed in terms of the time that they log in, what they're doing while they're on the computer, and while they're in the online learning system. And then there's a number of activities that the students do offline as well. And what we found is that our students that are enrolled in the online school actually spend more time on task and more time in general on their studies than students in traditional settings. It's a very rigorous curriculum.
So if the student logs in and then leaves the computer, does that not count as student attendance time?
Again, as I said, it's not just that they're logged on, it's the activities that are also tracked. So it's not just, right. It's not just...
One of the goals you have identified is recognizing and rewarding quality teachers. What will that look like, and how do you ensure a high level of teacher performance?
That I would have to defer.
The proposal talks about student discipline situations, how in an online learning environment we provide due process to those students.
I have to defer that one too.
Describe how you will meet the requirement under IDEA that students be served in the least restrictive environment.
Again, defer to our special education specialists.
How does K-12 or virtual learning systems modify instruction for students who have an IEP?
I'll have to defer that one.
The proposal states that if necessary, transportation will be provided to accommodate the special needs of the student as determined by the IEP team, but it later says that with regard to related services, therapy may be delivered in-home, online, face-to-face, or the parents may provide transportation to the contracted therapy agency within a reasonable distance of their home. If a student needs transportation services to accommodate his or her disability, will the school provide that transportation?
I mean, that was kind of a long question, but I would probably prefer to defer that.
What data will be used to determine if a student is eligible for extended school year services? What is your plan for meeting indicator 13 requiring transition planning for special education students?
You've heard it. I wish I could answer these questions for you, but
Will the school require a student to move through all of the tiers of the RTI process prior to be considered for an evaluation for special education?
again, that's something that you would have to defer.
Will the charter school issue certificates of completion in addition to diplomas?
I don't know the answer to that. Defer that.
How do you intend to address the needs of those at-risk students whose learning style does not match with the online environment?
I'll have to defer. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I go back to the statements I made earlier, that it is not a system for everyone.
So do they try it out for a couple weeks to see if it's what they want, and then?
That may be the case. There may be some students that come in, and again, in our investigation, as we found, stories of some that came in thinking it would be an easy way to get through their education, to get through school and get done with it, and they found it would be a rigorous curriculum, and it didn't work for them. So it's hard to answer the question.
I mean, and there are a lot of support that we provide, again, for students who are coming in. I mean, because it's a very different way of doing schooling, and so there are. But as to specifics, that's why I'd like to defer the answer, because if you want specific answers as to, what exactly is provided, it would be best to defer that.
Is one of those supports providing instruction in the student's native language if it's other than English?
We do provide English language learner services, so that, again, I would prefer to defer that so that you get the correct answer.
Can a student access the curriculum in Spanish?
Again, I have to defer that.
On page 20 of the materials that we were given, it states that all students should be measured to make 1 year's worth of gain. For below-level students, 1 year's worth of gain would never put that student on grade level. How are the needs of those students going to be addressed?
Defer that.
Approximately 13% of Batavia students have access to free and reduced lunch services. How will virtual learning solutions provide meals for low-income students?
I'll have to defer that. However, I know that in our New Jersey school that we're in process of applying for, there is a plan to provide students with meals. So, I don't know if that would be the case here, but defer the actual answer to that question.
Would a student's internet access be filtered in accordance with federal law for schools?
I will have to defer the answer to that.
Is having high-speed internet a requirement to be enrolled in the charter school?
That's something that I have to defer. The technology specs, I don't have them at the top of my head.
So there are certain technology requirements.
There are, and we there's a list of them, and that would be required.
So you referenced the national instructional model in both the proposal and what you presented us tonight. Can you explain a little bit more about what that national instructional model is?
We can. I can't tonight, but we can provide that answer for you.
How do you plan to address the social and emotional learning standards?
Again, that's something that I would have to defer.
One of the reasons stated for the enactment of the charter school in the law is to create new professional opportunities for teachers, including the opportunity to be responsible for the learning program at the school site. How does the use of K-12 for all of its curriculum and management fit with this purpose of charter schools?
For a fuller answer, I would like to defer. However, within the context of using the K-12 curriculum, instructors do have the ability to supplement that with non-K-12 material and experiences for their students.
Can they decide not to enact parts of the curriculum?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Those are my questions.
Okay, before we,
Go ahead.
people that want to address the board, please see Kathy or anybody to get a sheet. Put your name and address on that sheet, and then we'll collect those sheets now. And before we get into the public comments, Dr. Mershinger, you had one more statement or question.
Mr. Cohn and Ms. Carpenter, did you receive the questions we sent 10 days ago to Mr. Greenway?
I didn't personally receive them.
Virtual. He was your representative in the letter you sent.
Correct.
That we should send information. So we went to great work to provide you 10 days ago. Not all of these questions, but the general 3 topics and information. So they weren't part of your...
As far as I know that we're in the process of responding to those, the questions. We've got 18 districts that we applied to, and I'm
Yes,
not
that was your
personally...
application.
But what I'm
Yes,
saying
yes.
is that I'm not personally an expert in these areas. I'm here representing K-12, and we didn't have people spread all over Illinois right now. So
can you tell me what your
doing
role
that.
is as Vice President of School
Of school
Development?
development. So I go in, I'm with the blended learning division of K-12, and so I work in communities where there may be a nonprofit or a community member that's interested in opening up a blended learning charter school, and I work with that nonprofit or individual in finding, whether it's community partners or identifying opportunities. So a lot of my work is with blended schools.
And Mr. Cohn, can you just tell us your interest in getting involved to be a member of the board and volunteering your time?
Yeah, it's a simple answer. I think I outlined it at the beginning when I spoke that I think choice in education is absolutely paramount. I would like to be involved in helping to provide that to parents.
Can I ask, go ahead.
Could you just tell me which one of these 18 school districts you belong to?
I don't.
You don't belong to any of the 18 school districts?
Correct.
Where do you live and where's your community?
I live in the city of Chicago.
Okay. And how long have you been on the board?
I don't remember the exact date that I joined.
3 years, 2 years, a month?
It's been a short period, so maybe tops 2 months.
And how are you recruited to be on this board?
A friend of mine reached out to me that I believe knew Charnel Jackson, knew that she had been involved in this process, asked me if I was interested and connected me.
So of the members that are currently on the board, which ones of those members live within these 18 school districts?
I
know
don't.
that Mike Scott does, because I know Mike Scott.
Yeah, in
He lives
Naperville.
in Naperville, and he was president of the Illinois School Board, and also was president of the board in Naperville. But the other names don't ring any bells.
I believe Charnel Jackson's residence is in, I don't want to say that and know it, and not give a correct answer. That I don't know
It would be
the
accurate
cities
to
of
say that
residence.
the majority of these board members do not live within any one of these 18 school districts.
I don't know that to be true or untrue.
Okay. But you could find that information.
I absolutely, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move into the public comments.
Does the board want to use the next part was for the board?
No, fourth is public comment.
I'm sorry, you're right, for the board's left.
Again, this is...
Never mind.
Yeah, please. Our attorney, John Fester, is going to give you a set of these questions that we've already submitted 10
Thank you.
days ago.
Thank you.
We want it to be shown to the record that we have submitted these list of questions again. They are the questions that were asked this evening by the administration, pretty much chronological order.
To be fair, we sent a shorter version.
Right.
But they were the same gist of general subject area questions that were sent previously to Mr. Greenwood.
As we do get up to speak to talk this evening, this is a passionate issue. Not only do I ask that you keep it at 3 minutes, I do request please be respectful to the issue at large. It is a passionate issue. There are a lot of variables that have yet to be defined, but I please ask, to be as respectful as possible.
Mr. Link, if I can. Sure. This is where people are going to come for public comment, so if you could take your seats again to free up the area. It would have gotten awkward there for a moment.
Actually, we get to move to the comfortable steel chairs now.
Yes.
The holding chairs.
Okay, first comment, Paul Lichter. And these are just in the order they got shuffled to me, so. Good
Gee,
evening.
I get to be first. How
Yes.
My name is Paul Lichter. I live at 526 Alvarosky Way in Batavia. And what I wanted to address the board on tonight is I looked at the proposal, at least as best I was able to. It's a very large proposal. But one of the things I noticed was on page 10 of that proposal, there's a very substantial list of the other virtual charter schools that are ultimately operated or managed in some way by K-12 under agreements similar, at least, to what has been proposed here. And it struck me as a little bit odd that with such a substantial list of schools, that there was absolutely nothing in a 215-page proposal that mentions the performance or academic success of the students in those schools. So I went out and did a little research on my own to find whatever data that I could to talk to the academic success of the students in those schools. And of all the schools on that list, there was published data on 26 of them for either the current year or previous years that talks about the applicable state standards in each state and how, these various schools did in reference to those standards. Because of the 3-minute limit, I can't go into that in a whole lot of detail, but I want to at least share a couple of my impressions. Out of the 26 schools that data was available, the number of schools that I could find where the K-12 managed school either met or exceeded the state averages in both reading and math, the number of schools that I could find that met or exceeded both of those was 0. Not one. I should say, in fairness, for each school, I only looked at one grade level. I looked typically at either 5th grade or 9th grade, so maybe there are some that met in other grade levels, but that was just far too much data for me to go through in the amount of time that I had. Looking at those same 26 schools, the number of schools that met at least 90%, where 90% of the kids met the academic standards in any one category, and I would consider 90% to be somewhat high performance, was also 0. Not a single school met that standard. Now, in fairness, there were, I believe, 4 or 5 schools that did come within 1 or 2 points above or below the average in one out of however many categories. But I could not find anything that indicated that there was any significant record of academic success for the students really in any of these schools. What I also noticed, and I did make copies of kind of the data that I pulled, which I'd be happy to share with the board if the board likes. But one of the things I also did notice is in looking at the data, for those schools where there are multiple years of data available, the level of performance is measured against state standards for the schools that are run by K-12 was actually going down almost year after year after year for the vast majority of those schools. So while most schools are trying to increase their performance and do better by the students, the appearance is that these schools don't get better with age, they get worse with age. Okay, they're actually doing worse.
30 seconds.
Okay. I'm not against charter schools. I'm not against online schools. But it certainly seems to me that we could be doing a lot better for the students in this community than an organization with this kind of track record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lichter, this evening, out in the front lobby, there's a blue sheet that is for written input. So if you have some of that and want to give us that data that we'll share with the board, we created a forum thinking there would be people who might want to give additional written input. That you could just staple that to the form, put your name on the top.
Yes, if there's anyone who would wish to leave, I'm sorry, I forgot to say that earlier, written input. There are some blue sheets out in the lobby. I realize everyone doesn't want to leave a public, comment, so it does give the opportunity to list your comments and also leave us with your emails. Not only will we contact you individually, this information will also be on our website, but it just gives another avenue for public or community input. And again, I apologize as I butcher people's names.
I want to be careful. Your public input is going to the board, not on the website.
That's correct.
Okay, all right,
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
It's going to the board.
Give me the page back. The board will review the public input, but it will go no farther than board and possibly administration. It will not go on the website, and before we get to where the board reviews the comments, Dr. Bersher and myself will eliminate names and addresses. So we're just strictly looking at community comments, and it will not go on the website.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
John Lesh. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John Lash with Northern Illinois Jobs with Justice. Thank you for doing your hard work that you've done tonight. We have about 400 to 450 members throughout the 18th district area. I live at 710 South 4th Street in Aurora, Illinois. I'm here tonight to express my opposition to K-12 Inc. and to ask the board to reject the proposal. I would also like the board to adopt a resolution to support State Representative Chapalavia's amendment, House Bill 494, that calls for a 3-year moratorium on virtual charter schools in the state of Illinois. I have some answers that K-12 did not answer tonight. You asked if K-12 would spend money on advertising, and I believe it was Eric who more or less said no. According to the New York Times article, maybe the Hyped article, in 2010, K-12 spent $26.5 million on advertising. That's $26 million. That's not going to buy books, computers, iPads, or other valuable education materials here in Batavia. So think about this. If K-12's business model was a good education model, they wouldn't have to advertise. Parents would be lining up to enroll their kids. But what we learned is that this is not a superior education model. In fact, it's highly inferior. The last commenter talked about K-12 Inc.'s poor academic performance, and this is a trend. So the second question was, would they spend money on political lobbying or political campaigns? And the answer there was no, but that's not true already. K-12 spent $36,000 lobbying Illinois lawmakers in Springfield, and we can expect that they will spend much more to keep Illinois charter school application process weak and easily exploitable, just like they're trying to do here tonight. I brought my sign because we attended several board meetings throughout the district, and I was hoping to go before just to focus the attention on the grade and academic performance. But you guys did your due diligence, and I appreciate that. Boy, I think if the General Assembly worked as hard as you guys did on these questions, the state of Illinois wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. But since you've already asked your questions, I guess I'll just make sure that you know that tomorrow night in Aurora, District 131, where I live, we expect data. We expect ACT scores, we expect ISAT scores, national averages, graduation rates. No excuses, no dismissing this as biased or inflammatory. I'm going to read your exact words.
Sir,
here.
please address the board, and I apologize.
Okay, sorry. I will. Yeah. Anyway, we're expecting no dog ate my data excuse tomorrow night. So anyway, we do appreciate the opportunity to present our position, and I'll submit a written form as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amy being carried. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Amy Biancari. I live at 518 Bernadette Lane in Batavia. I am a teacher at the high school and a parent of 3 children in the district in 5th, 8th, and 12th grades. 2 weeks ago, I brought my 8th grade daughter to the first annual Batavia Fine Arts Festival, where she got to do hands-on art and see art by lots of different students. The night before, my 12th grader brought his girlfriend to see student improv and a student poetry slam and lots of other things. Last week I watched my 5th and 8th graders in the All-City Orchestra. What makes Batavia special is not only its excellence in education, but its sense of community. And while I see nothing wrong with charter schools in and of themselves, I don't see that a company, Illinois Virtual Charter Schools with no track record, being sponsored by K-12, which has a bad track record, would be good for our community. I don't want to see funds diverted from our schools to an out-of-state parent company that can't possibly provide all of the educational and enrichment experiences my own children have benefited from in our current schools. It takes away local control over our education, and whether it's $8,000 per pupil or $10,000 per pupil, out of the district's budget that isn't recouped even if the students go back to the school district. I can't imagine that the district would be able to continue to provide the quality education and the wonderful enrichment opportunities that it currently provides if this virtual charter school is approved. I oppose it, and I also ask you to support Linda Chapalavia's House Bill 494, the moratorium on virtual charter schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Verona Spencer?
Virginia.
Okay. My
hold it over here
my
for
reading's
you.
almost
My handwriting.
my reading's almost as bad as your writing. Let me see if I can have it right. I was trying not to do that.
Need a translator, right?
I got the Spencer right. Good evening.
Virginia Spencer, 39 West 452 West Mallory, Geneva, Illinois. I'm a parent of one high schooler and two middle schoolers. And some of the former speakers have touched on, the fact that we haven't seen any data. We've seen a lot of negative data from the BEA, coming through email. It would have been useful to look at, both sides of the argument. What are the positives about having a virtual charter school in the area? I would have liked to have seen drilling down into some of the subgroup demographics, some of the performance for special ed and gifted and talented, some of the things that the charter school brought up. I think that it sounds to me, and I don't understand all of the legal ramifications, not being a lawyer, but we don't have legal representation from the state here today, is that correct? And that might have been useful, because it sounds to me as a member of the community like if you reject the proposal, it could go ahead anyway. One of the things to consider is that if they were to establish themselves in the Fox Valley, that would provide competition, and with it would possibly bring, seeing as parents have reached out to them and asked them to come in, some bricks and mortar charter schools for the area. And I personally think that competition is healthy, and I'm a big proponent of the capitalist model, which is when you don't perform, you get fired. And it seems to me that a charter school fits into my idea of being able to fire someone that doesn't educate my child better than the public school system. But having both options, and obviously they're going to be depleting your revenue from the state. But whether they succeed or not, they're still going to be here, and they're going to attract attention. And that's basically all I had.
Okay. Thanks very much. Jennifer Nicoley, I'm sorry. I got the Jennifer right.
You did, yeah. I appreciate that. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Jen Nicoley. I live at 1893 Flagstone in Aurora. I've got two kids at Louise White. Before I start, can I ask a question? What is the current option for a student who doesn't fit our traditional model?
Why don't you go ahead and go with your statement,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about the question.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay, I've got some data gathering too. I'm a big data research kind of person. And they're not speaking to Illinois schools, but in general. For example, in Pennsylvania, 42% of virtual school students tested at grade level, compared to 75% of brick and mortar school students, according to the New York Times. In Education Week in October of 2011, only 12% of Colorado Virtual Academy students graduated on time, while 72% of public school students graduated on time. Online students were losing ground, and students who transferred to online programs from brick and mortar schools posted lower test scores on annual state reading exams after entering their virtual classrooms. And a large percentage of those came back to the brick and mortar classrooms after the virtual online school did not work out for them. And then there are also double-digit gaps in achievement on state exams between online students and their peers in traditional schools. They're widest among more affluent schools, which is kind of troubling to our community because by definition, comparatively, we've got a wide range of students here in Batavia. With Illinois' financial issues, instead of opening virtual schools, I believe we need to focus on delivering adequate resources to our schools that do great work to keep our students competitive in a changing technological world.
Okay, thank you. And your question was, if you would be so kind as to submit that on the blue form?
Sure.
Then I can get it, then we can get it, for answers for everyone.
Certainly.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Howard Miller. Now, I know I got that one right. Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Link, school board members, Dr. Barshinger, and administrators. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight in opposition to K-12 Inc.'s request to apply for charter schools in Batavia. My name is Howard Miller. I live at 1137 Pine Street. I'm a taxpayer, a former small business owner, a former teacher at Batavia High School, and a member of Northern Illinois Jobs with Justice. After researching the history of K-12 Incorporated, a for-profit education company that sells online schooling and curriculum to state and local governments, I came up with these disturbing facts. Located in Pennsylvania, Agora is one of the largest in a portfolio of similar public schools across the country run by K-12. By almost every educational measure, the Agora Cyber Charter School is failing. Nearly 60% of its students are behind grade level in math. Nearly 50% trail in reading. A third do not graduate on time. And hundreds of children from kindergartners to seniors withdraw within a month after they've enrolled. In Massachusetts, the Republican Springfield newspaper reported that students in K-12 run online schools ranked second lowest in the state on student progress in the MCAS math and English exams. They all also post an unusual high attrition rate. The Georgia Department of Education is threatening to close an online charter school run by K-12 over issues with special education. The K-12 run Georgia Cyber Academy has repeatedly failed to comply with the federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and has violated student civil rights by failing to provide services under state law. State auditors found that the K-12 run Colorado Virtual Academy counted about 120 students for state reimbursement whose enrollments could not be verified or who did not meet Colorado residency requirements. Some never logged in. Alex Molnar, a research professor at the University of Colorado Boulder School of Education said, quote, "What we're talking about here is the financialization of public education. These folks are fundamentally trying to do to public education what banks did with home mortgages," unquote. The Wisconsin Virtual Academy four-year graduation rate, which was reported last May to be 30.4%, also is significantly lower than the rest of the district, which was 88.9%. Also, the Wisconsin Virtual Academy's state test scores vary between grades, but are generally lower than McFarland's, that's their district, which is why the district separates them out when reporting in scores in the spring. For the last 5 years, the Texas Virtual Academy contracted with the Houston Charter Southwest Schools, which paid K-12 to manage and operate the establishment. But the Virtual Academy failed to meet state standards 2 years in a row and faced getting shut down. Southwest School severed the contract and no longer offered the online program.
30 seconds.
Okay. Then I'll keep it to the end. The Chicago virtual school, the K-12 school, according to the Illinois Interactive 2012 report card, the Chicago virtual school has not met AYP since 2009. They are on the state's academic warning status list. Only 34.4% met the PSA standards, down 9.4% from the previous year. And Mr. Newkirk, Dr. Craig Butts, who is the administrator of the Chicago Virtual School, answered one of your questions. K-12 curriculum is entirely in English. They do not have Spanish-speaking or any other foreign language school. As a taxpayer, I don't want my tax dollars to pay off lawsuits, advertising for nonprofit education, and schools that don't perform better than public schools. Do you? And I have a written copy of this.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tony Millay. Anyone else wish to address the board this evening? Please see Kathy and turn in your sheet. Good evening.
Good evening, thank you. I'll be quick here. I know we're using up some time here, and this is a few hours that we're never going to get back. But I would start with a couple questions that came to mind that I know I can't ask them now. But one question is of those individuals that were representing the charter school company is typically who are the learning coaches and are they paid? The other question is, if we're a district of about 6,000 students, up to 0.5% would be about 30 students. So they're telling us we're looking at about 30 students enrolling from Batavia. I'm wondering if that's including homeschool children. That's figured into their calculations. Then the prepared statement I have, basically, as many of you know, I wear multiple hats in this town. First of all, I'm a parent. My wife and I moved here to Batavia when our oldest child was to begin kindergarten. We have 3 children that have benefited tremendously from the excellent schools here in Batavia. We currently have a child at each level, elementary, middle, and high school. Very busy time, as Amy knows. We could not be happier with Batavia schools and the opportunities they have afforded our children. We believe that if a charter school is to come in and take some of the revenue, it's clearly going to impact the rest of the education of the rest of the children in Batavia, and we could not stand back and let harm be done to our children. The next role or hat I wear is as a taxpayer in Batavia. Approximately 85% of Batavia Public Schools revenue, as we know, comes from local property taxes. This proposal is a blatant attempt to turn some of our local tax dollars into corporate profits for K-12 and its Wall Street investors. Another hat that I wear is as a professional educator. And I can tell you that the daily interactions that I have with children are probably the most important tool that I have in being able to assess the needs of children and how to help them best learn. A virtual charter school doesn't allow for that kind of interaction. I also have taught building trades working in the content area of career and technical ed that I teach in is a lot of hands-on stuff, and those are things that are not doable online, such as building a house. Our program has built 19 houses built by the children, or the students in Batavia. In fact, the last house we were able to use an electrician and an HVAC contractor that were former students that now have their own companies. And as a professional educator, what an honor that was to have some of my former students teach current students how to wire a house. Those type of things are just not possible virtually. Now, I understand that not all those programs are meant for everyone. However, when we start diverting funds, that takes away opportunities from everyone. So the kids that those learning opportunities are good for would be taken away. And finally, the last hat that I wear is as BEA president. Now I know a former speaker talked about information being sent out by the 30 seconds. By the BEA. It's only showing one side. The problem was we couldn't find anything on the other side supporting it that was legitimate.
The 420 professional educators in Batavia that I represent primarily live in Batavia. 51% live in Batavia because they're committed to this community and the high quality of education that we afford all children in Batavia. We believe that all children can learn, and we are committed to finding ways to ensure that all children can learn. I believe if the budget were to siphon, or if this were approved, the budget would be reduced by about 0.5%, which would be significant as we come out of a difficult budget time, a time where over the last several years, 3-4 years, we have been at a deficit, and we are currently coming to a balanced budget. Something like this would put us, would deal a blow to the finances of this district, and again, harm the children of Batavia. We cannot support this. I believe that you will make the right decision on this. I think the real fight is going to be in Springfield on this, and I urge everyone to contact their legislator to let them know that they should not expose us to these kind of attacks by out-of-state profiteers. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe's. Joe, come on up. What's it?
Joe Stupek is my name.
Thank you.
I live at 2536 Tracy Lane in Aurora, Illinois. I'm a member of District 129, the West Side Schools of Aurora. I believe I came because all the 18 school districts were pretty much in the same boat on this. We're all going to sink or succeed on this effort together. A couple of things that I was at our board meeting last night, and I know you guys aren't done, but a few things came up, and I think they should be mentioned before the meeting is over. First of all, the performance you saw here this evening is not atypical. I belong to Northern Illinois Jobs with Justice also. Our members are scattered out through the 18 districts, and we've been talking for the last few days of the meetings that have gone down so far, and they all seem to be debacles. That's our opinion. Each individual board will make their own opinion. But from what I saw last night, I believe West Aurora will vote no, because they had no reason to vote yes, as you really probably have no reason to vote yes on what you've seen tonight, but I'm not trying to influence your opinion in any way. Maybe one of these people from the company can verify or deny that K-12 actually is a subsidiary of a New York Stock Exchange company called Learning, LRN. The stock presently sells for about $22 a share. They can verify or deny that after I'm done. The salaries for the officers, I believe last year were over $5 million. I believe maybe even the CEO himself made $5 million, and the people below him made in the high six-digit salaries. Right now, as we're speaking right now, there is no director for special education. Special education was mentioned a lot last night because Dr. Butts has a doctorate in special ed, and he was specifically asked if there was a director of special ed, and there is not. The coach subject. Really didn't get an answer when I was in high school. We went, don't ask when that was, but we would go in the building in the morning and the bell would ring. We'd have Spanish, we'd have physics, we'd have English, we'd have math, all these subjects. I can't imagine that their teachers, one teacher can service one student in 5 or 6 or 7 different subjects. How do they handle that problem? Public funding for home education, that's illegal as far as I know. Maybe the attorney can verify or deny that, I don't know. As far as I know, public funds for supporting home education is illegal, and there seems to be a very gray area as to how this is going to happen. Maybe you guys can find out tonight. We couldn't find out last night. Am I running out of time?
About 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. We were fortunate enough last Sunday to have a Tennessee state representative with her own funds motor up to Geneva, Illinois, where we had a meeting. Several board members from all the districts were there, and she came to testify to us as to how bad their current situation is down there. Main problem, lack of oversight. She has met with teachers who she's asked to come and see their teaching techniques, and the teachers would agree to it, but they never got back to her as to when that could happen because the teacher's manager would not allow it. So lack of oversight down there. That's about it. Can't think of anything. I could think of other things, but anyway, I strongly advised or asked that my board vote no on the situation, and I won't butt into Batavia's business, but good luck on your decision. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board this evening?
We have to vote 5.
Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite Eric and Tamara back up to the table here. We probably have some board member comments, would be my guess. This is a part of the this is the final part of the informational meeting where the board has the opportunity to ask some questions of the applicant. K-12. Board member questions? Dr. Penderlawn. No, this is okay. This is the comments to go home. This is questions. Just want to be sure everybody knew that.
Oh, thank you. Of the members that you have on your board, are any of them have a background in education?
The board president, Charnel Jackson, was with Chicago Public Schools for over 20 years. Mike Scar.
She served there.
I don't know specifically. Mike Scar, as you mentioned, was on the board in Naperville and former head of the State Board of Education.
And none of them are actually teachers that are worked in schools, other than working.
I think Charnel might have been. Let me look. I'll look in the dozen.
There are bios included in
Yeah,
the.
let me look. I think she was.
The proposal it is? All right. That's all the questions I have at this
Great. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through everybody once, and we'll come through again if something else that thought of or stimulated. Great.
So should I ask one or I have 3?
Just ask one now. I'll get you in the second.
Mr. Cohn, we are elected by the voters of the school district and therefore held accountable to them. How are you, or how did you get on the board? You'll elaborate a little bit on it. And how are you going to be held accountable?
I was invited to join in the formation of the Illinois not-for-profit that will, if the charter is approved, become the board. As for the means for which it's comparable to the way that it's held accountable, I can't answer that question.
Joe.
Well, I had 11 questions that I was going to ask.
Okay.
I'm going to set those aside.
Let's
I just want to make sure I understand where we are with this thing. Apparently...
Joe, why don't you ask your questions, then we'll summarize at the end of your
I don't have any
question.
questions.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
So much for those 11 questions. Kathy?
I don't even know what to ask because there's a whole stack of stuff that I would have wanted answers to that you can't give us answers to, so I don't even know where to go with it.
Tina?
I just, the paper has publicized these 18 board meetings. It's been all over our newspapers. You had to have known that you were going to receive many questions about this. What was your goals meeting with all of the school boards? What were you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish?
The simple answer to that is as presented in the proposal, we're trying to accomplish the establishment of a virtual online charter school in the Fox River Valley.
But you had to have known that there were going to be, some of the questions were detailed, but some of them were basic questions that community members found answers to, but you had no answers for them. You had to have known that you were going to receive questions, correct?
Yes.
Yes. That's all I have to say.
Kathy?
How many homeschoolers in Batavia currently use K-12 curriculum? And how does that compare to the entire number of homeschoolers in Batavia?
I don't have the answer to that question.
So where do you think your students are going to come from?
Our students come from, some of our students come from homeschools that have been previously homeschooled, and they make the choice to join a virtual, but some of the students come from public school settings, some come from private or Catholic schools. It's based upon a parent's decision to try a virtual school or a desire to enroll their student in a virtual school.
I find it astounding that you come to Batavia specifically, and you have no information about Batavia. What are you thinking? You're totally unprepared. I'm just astounded by the entire performance here tonight.
And it's not that we as an organization can't provide the answers to the questions. It's that I don't have the answers to those questions this evening.
You should have been prepared.
Why are
You
you
knew
here?
you were coming here. You're not prepared. And you're not impressing me by your lack of preparation.
Jack.
When you have your board meetings and you gather together, you're governed by the Open Meeting Act, just like we are, which means you have to let the public know that you're having your meeting. So how do you go about informing the area, the Fox Valley, that you're having a meeting and what your agenda is and where it's going to be held? How would I know as a citizen within this community so that I could attend your board meeting? How's that done?
For any questions of the Open Meetings Act, I'd be happy to defer to our counsel and have them answer that.
Greg?
This proposal is for a 5-year contract to expire in 2018. What happens then?
It would be to the board to determine.
Based
What do
upon,
you tell the parents?
there's an
What do you tell the
opportunity.
children?
There's an opportunity to renegotiate the contract or to continue on. It's after that 5 years, that board is looking at what K-12 has done in terms of performance and determining whether or not they're going to continue with that. And that contract is based upon charter law and how long a charter can be granted for. And that determines the length of the contract between the governing board and K-12.
Hey, Joe?
We asked, between the administration and the few questions that we had here, I think I added up well over 100 questions. You answered some of them. The ones that you didn't answer that you deferred, can you give us an idea when we will get a response to those answers? Understand we're up against a 30-day deadline here. We need to have answers. That's the first part. The second part is the contract between K-12 and virtual learning charter schools of the Fox Valley is not completed, from what I understand. When will that be completed so that we can review that within this 30-day period? That's the second part. The third part is we have no agreement. There must be an agreement that we have to reach between this district and virtual learning charter school of Fox Valley. We don't have that agreement. We don't know what that agreement looks like, but yet we have to decide within 30 days what that relationship's going to be. So where is that agreement, and when will we have access to that so that we can make the decision? See, we're charged by these people to make good decisions, and good decisions require data. We don't have the data. So what I'm looking for are some deadlines from you to get this information to us in a timely fashion so that we can respond.
Well, this evening, I don't have the authority to give you a deadline this evening. I can't tell you when it's going to be, but you can suggest. I mean, if you have the questions, you pose the questions, and you can ask if you want them in 5 days or 3 days. You can suggest it.
I think Mr. Cohn here represents the board. You
I'm saying
represent
K-12. From K-12's perspective, there are some questions that are specific
But
to.
the contract goes to Virtual Learning Solution. It goes to Mr. Cohn as the treasurer and one of 5 members of the board. So you're a subcontractor in the proposal that's presented. So I think the question really goes to Mr. Cohn that proposed it, that should have been, if he didn't know the law, should have known the law, or should have had legal counsel that knew the law, that knew that we had to have this proposal. I need to have a recommendation to this board to do my job. So I think it's a fair question that Mr. Prepper asks, because we're under the timeline. We don't make up the rules, we implement the rules. The state legislature makes the rules. We have to live by them. And this board's job is to determine whether this proposal is appropriate and good for the children of Batavia. That's their proposal. We're not going to comment on the charter law. We didn't write the law. State legislators do that. We must carry out the rules and regs that are in the code. So we must have that information. Mr. Cohn, as a board member, your name's in this proposal. This represents your work. And you must have a means of working with the 18 districts in the 30 days that are set by law. That's not a surprise. That's a simple reading exercise. Will we have the information for this Board of Education to make a decision? That's a yes or a no.
To answer the gentleman's question, I can't give you a specific date. If you would like to ask us to provide them by a certain point in time, we will do in our earnest to get you the data by the time,
So
by the
if
date that
you
you
can't
request.
give us the information to make a decision, will you be withdrawing the proposal from the 18 school districts? Because you can't meet the timelines in the state legislation.
To our understanding, to my understanding, we have followed the statutes as it has been written.
Correct. So I have two assumptions. Either one, you intentionally wrote this proposal in this way to bypass the 18 school districts and go to the Illinois Charter Commission to propose something else, or you don't have legal counsel or staff that know how to read state law and write a proposal. Former grant writer in former life, it's pretty easy to read the law, and it states very clearly what needs to be proposed. So those are the two assumptions I'm led to believe and to advise this board, which I'm not sure.
I want to get it finished for other board.
Sorry,
Any
did
other
I
board
jump
member
in?
comments?
Mr. Prepper, go right ahead.
Any other board member comments?
Yeah.
Joe?
No, I'm done.
I did have one question that is so basic compared to this legal question. I believe you mentioned that parents in our district or the 18 districts had reached out with an interest. Do you have data on that you can supply along with all the rest of the data? I'd be very interested to know, and especially those parents that are in Batavia who have a need for this or have a desire.
We have data. I was looking for.
We'll be happy to provide it for you.
Information up there, but we do, and we do have specific to Batavia residents that have reached out.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
And I know this is nitpicking. When you say reached out, what does that actually mean? They saw your ad and called and were interested? They saw your public notice that you were doing these charter school meetings and said, hey, I'd like information?
It was various means. I don't have the specifics of how it happened. Some of them called, some of them went to the website, some of them so it happened in various means, but we have the numbers of residents
who have asked you for information about
exactly.
This. Okay.
And expressed an interest in enrolling their student in a K-12 virtual school.
Kathy? Tina's shaking her head.
I have a question for Mr. Cohn and a question for Ms. Carpenter.
Why don't you ask them both and we'll finish up. We'll start to ask them both.
Okay. Mr. Cohn, what do you do during the day? What's your day job? What's your career?
With my career, I own a public affairs company.
Name?
The name is Curious Task Strategies.
Curious Task Strategies, okay. And Ms. Carpenter, what's your K-12 salary?
I'm not going to answer that question because it's not.
Well, you see, here's the thing. When you get involved with public schools, you're subject to the Freedom of Information Act. I get to ask those questions. You have to answer.
Actually, I'm a member of a for-profit company, and the governing board, if granted the charter, would be a public organization.
Okay, I'll ask Mr. Cohn. What's her salary? What do you pay her?
He doesn't pay.
There is no contract in place. We're not paying them.
Okay, I'm going to kind of summarize this up. Greg,
This is for John, actually. This is in relation to the state board, charter school state board, or whatever the name of it is. How are they appointed? Who are they? And basically, what juice do they have in the game?
The Charter School Commission? I believe they were appointed by the governor.
Which one?
They are current. They've only been in existence for a year or so. They're a mix. Their president, their leader is a charter school proponent. I don't know his background completely. There are a few educators on there. I know one of them who's a retired educator. But by and large, there are 9 people that are appointed by the governor. As to their juice, that's a loaded question in Illinois. So I don't think I'll speak to what I think the commission was set up for.
Are they paid?
I don't know if they receive stipends or not.
Okay, I'm going to kind of summarize this up. First of all, I want to start out by thanking all the administrators and the board members. They have spent countless hours reviewing this proposal, coming up with questions, not for the concept of smashing virtual schools or things, but what's good for your kids at Batavia. So I want to thank you for that. It's a very interesting position now we are in as a board. Because now first of all, we've got a contract here that we assume that was the contract, but it's not. We assume there was engagement with virtual learning with K-12. There's not. We assume that K-12 is under the same public scrutiny of Freedom of Information Act as we are. They're not. But if we do the obvious thing, and the boards do the obvious thing, and vote no on this issue, it kicks it right to the state level, and no one knows what the state is going to do. Is it going to be rubber stamped and sent back, and all of a sudden Batavia is a partner with this entity? I don't know the answer to that. I don't think John knows the answer to that.
No, you can't predict what the State Charter Commission will do.
We can't predict. I don't even know where to go from here. We as a board will wait for administrative recommendations. I do want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and spending the time. Eric, Tamara, I want to thank you. Very difficult job, very unique set of circumstances. My suggestion is really, in order for the community to buy into this, for the public to buy into this, you need to really educate yourself on your products. And I don't mean that in a nasty or negative way. But if this is so good for kids, we need that, districts and communities are going to want some answers. As somebody said down here, we are elected by the members of the community, and it's a very difficult time for public education right now, especially in the state of Illinois. When something like this comes across, I don't even know how individually how I broach this, because if I'm not for it, it goes right to the state, then I lose all control. If I'm for it, I don't know what I'm for, because we actually have a publication. So your admission is not accurate. It's a proposal, but the law states it should be a contract. So I really don't know the answer here, but I would like to see a response back to these questions, Eric, as early as possible. I do want to, John, check into the situation with the K-12. If they are a public company, if there are financial records and things of those sort, as Mrs. Roberts brought up, our public record, what their salaries are, their level of compensation for their officers and their individuals. I think that's all a very valuable data gathering process. I've been on this board a long time. I'm nearing the end of my tenure here. I've seen a lot of things, but never anything even remotely like this. So members of the community, you need to contact us, you need to contact administrators, you need to contact the legislatures, and you need to tell them what your opinions are on this. And again, this board came into this evening, we read the proposal, we spent hours reviewing the proposal. We came into this with a neutral mind, with a neutral position to really hear what the entities had to say and see if this is a decision that's good for the communities of Batavia. I have a million things I'd like to tell you folks, but I won't do that. I can't go anywhere else with this. We are going to take a short recess and then continue the rest of our business meeting. People are welcome to stay, but we'll take a 10 or 15 minute recess and a 10-minute recess.